I've been a long-haul trucker for a regional grocery chain for several years now. My job is specifically overnight work. I haul refrigerated loads to multiple store locations, and timing matters. Perishables can't wait, and neither can the stores receiving them. One thing that always got a laugh around the depot: I was paid by the hour, not the mile. So if I pushed hard and finished my run ahead of schedule, I actually walked away with less money than if I'd taken my time. Doesn't exactly reward efficiency. The guys I work with joke about it constantly. But at the end of the day, it just meant there was no pressure to speed, which is probably for the best on empty overnight roads. On this particular night, I had 3 deliveries lined up across 3 different stops. The first 2 went off without a hitch. But by the time I was heading toward the 3rd location, something felt off. Not with the truck, but with me. I was dragging. That bone-deep kind of tired where your eyes feel like they've got weights on them. And I was running about an hour ahead of schedule, so I was genuinely debating whether to just push through and get home early, or pull over somewhere, grab a paid nap, and deliver the last load at its scheduled window. While I was going back and forth in my head, I was rolling through a thick, forested stretch of road. No houses. No other cars. Just trees pressing in on both sides, and my headlights cutting through the dark. Then I saw him. A man. Standing right in the center of the road. I spotted him far enough ahead that I didn't need to stomp the brakes, but I was moving fast enough that the stop still wasn't exactly smooth. The truck shuddered to a halt, and I sat there staring at this guy through the windshield. He didn't look hurt. He wasn't waving his arms or holding out his thumb like a hitchhiker. He was just standing there. No expression I could make out. No visible reason for why he was in the middle of a stretch of road that had no business having pedestrians on it at that hour. Even after I stopped, he didn't move. Not a step. Not even a flinch. I sat there maybe 10 seconds before every instinct I had started screaming. Something about the whole thing felt deeply wrong. I shifted back into drive, went wide around him in the other lane, and kept going. My eyes kept flicking to the mirrors as I pulled away. He still hadn't moved. About a mile down the road, I passed a car parked on the shoulder. All 4 doors wide open. Not one door, all 4, hanging fully open, like someone had intentionally flung them out. The interior light was on and spilling out into the dark. I connected the dots immediately. That had to be his car. But the open doors didn't make it less strange. They made it stranger. If he needed help, why leave his vehicle and stand in the road rather than flag someone down from the shoulder? Why were all the doors open? It had the feel of something staged. Like a setup. I couldn't shake it, even as I drove on, and the scene faded behind me. I decided then and there I was stopping at the next gas station or rest area I could find. The encounter had my heart rate up, and I was too tired to keep pushing anyway. Getting paid to rest suddenly sounded like the smartest thing in the world. But what I found waiting at that gas station, I still don't have an explanation for. Stay with me, because the story doesn't end on that road. About 10 miles further down the route, I found it. An older gas station I'd passed dozens of times, but never once stopped at. The building was always dark after hours. There were never other truckers there, and the whole place had this slightly forgotten quality to it, like it was running on inertia more than actual business. Tonight was no different. The pumps were empty. The lot was quiet. Around back, the semi-truck parking area was completely vacant. I pulled into a spot, did one last slow look around the property, and told myself it was fine. Set an alarm for 40 minutes and leaned back in my seat. I went out fast. Dead sleep, the kind you only get when you're truly exhausted. When the alarm went off, I was still groggy. I reached over and silenced it without even fully opening my eyes. But then, when I actually looked up, my blood went cold. There was a car parked directly in front of my truck. Headlights on. All 4 doors wide open. The same car. I swiveled around, checked every mirror, scanned the entire lot. Nothing. No one walking around. No figure near the building. No sounds. The parking lot was as empty and silent as it had been when I'd arrived, except for that car sitting there, pointed right at me, like it had been waiting. Where was the man who'd been standing in the road? How did that car get here without me hearing it pull in? And why, again, were all the doors open? I didn't try to answer any of those questions. I put the truck in gear, backed out slowly, and got back on the road. I thought about it for the rest of the drive to my final delivery stop, and couldn't land on a single logical explanation. That was about 2 months before I wrote this down. I've run that route many times since. The man hasn't appeared again. That car hasn't shown up again. But I don't think I'll ever fully let go of the unease I felt staring at those open doors in an empty lot at 3 in the morning. And as unsettling as that night was, the next trucker story puts a man inside a locked trailer with food, water, and a weapon. You'll want to hear what he found when he opened those doors. I drive for a moving company that handles large cross-country relocations. My job is strictly behind the wheel. I'm not part of the crew that loads or unloads. I just get the trailer from point A to point B. This particular run was about as long as they come, Boston to a smaller city in California. Essentially coast to coast. The eastern states weren't a problem. Decent roads. Reasonable traffic even at odd hours. But once you cross into the western half of the country, the landscape changes. Long, open stretches of highway with very little in between. Bigger gaps between fuel stops. Fewer people. It was around 9:30 at night when I needed to use the restroom and pulled off at a small rest area. The car lot was empty. The truck lot was empty. Just me and the sound of the wind. I parked, reorganized a few things in the cab, and climbed out. The quiet out there is a particular kind of quiet, not peaceful, exactly. More like the absence of anything at all. I walked into the restroom building, took care of business, and was heading back out when I heard something. Not wind, not animals. A thud. Heavy. Almost metallic. I stepped outside. Nobody there. Parking lot still empty. I did a full walk around of the truck and didn't see anything out of place. Talked myself into dismissing it and got back on the road. A few hours later, I was running low on fuel and stopped to fill up. While the pump was running, the fatigue really started setting in. It was close to midnight. I'd put in a solid day of driving. I thought about just sleeping there at the pump station, but for reasons I still can't explain, I decided to push on to the next rest area, about another 30 minutes down the highway. Those 30 minutes were rough. I was fighting to stay sharp. By the time I pulled into the rest stop, I was running on empty. This one was a larger facility, car parking on one side, truck parking on the other, separated by a line of trees. I could see headlights through the branches on the car side. The truck section was all mine. I parked, cranked the AC, and crawled into the sleeper. I was out within minutes. 2 hours later, something woke me up. A thump. Loud enough to feel it vibrate through the frame of the truck. I sat up, stumbled into the front seat, expecting to find someone messing with the cab. But the windows were clear. No one outside. I almost settled back down when a second thump hit. This one left no doubt. It came from inside the trailer. What he found when he unlocked those doors and stepped inside changed everything. That story concludes right after this, and you do not want to look away. I climbed down from the cab and walked around to the back of the trailer. The tamper seal was still in place. The locks were untouched. Everything looked exactly as it should. But something told me not to ignore it. I popped the seal, undid the locks, and pulled the doors open. The moment I did, I heard something shift, boxes moving, something sliding. A rush of adrenaline hit me so fast it almost felt physical. I pulled myself up and stepped inside. It was almost completely dark. The trailer was packed tight, boxes stacked to the ceiling, wrapped furniture filling every gap. Stuff had clearly moved around, but that could have been from the drive. I worked my way deeper, trying to see toward the far end. My eyes were adjusting to the dark when I caught it. Ahead, just above the furniture line, watching me. He wasn't moving. He was trying to stay hidden, but had nowhere left to go. I stumbled backward, hit the door frame, and dropped out of the trailer. I slammed the door shut and locked them from the outside. Then I just stood there in the parking lot, catching my breath, staring at the trailer. I called the police. The man inside didn't make a sound or attempt to escape during the 35 minutes I waited for an officer. When they went in and pulled him out, here's what they found. He hadn't just crawled in for a free ride. He had food stockpiled, water, and a firearm. He was set up for a multi-day trip, and from everything the officers could piece together, his plan wasn't to rob the truck. It looked like he intended to ride all the way to the destination and ambush whoever was at the new house. The family said they had no idea who he was. He was arrested and taken away before any of that could happen. But I've thought about it many times since. What if I'd slept through those thumps? What if I'd confronted him alone in that dark trailer instead of locking the doors and calling for help? That could have ended completely differently. But the final story tonight might be the most chilling of all, because this trucker didn't just encounter one stranger in the dark. He found evidence that someone had been hunting drivers on that road for months. I run a multi-day delivery circuit through the rural Midwest. I've driven that route hundreds of times. Flat land, long fields, small towns spread far apart. Quiet roads that feel like they belong to another era. Nothing about the start of this particular night stood out. I was on a 2-lane road cutting through open farmland. No interstate, because my deliveries go to smaller communities, and the main highways don't always take me where I need to go. Miles of tall grass on either side. No lights anywhere on the horizon. Then, without warning, the truck started shaking. The road noise jumped from a low hum to a roar. I immediately pulled onto the shoulder and killed the engine. When I got out, I found one tire going flat. Still deflating, slowly sinking. But when I walked the truck, it got worse. 6 tires total were flat or going flat. 6 out of 18 wheels. I'd never seen or heard of that happening from normal road conditions. It was the kind of damage you get from a spike strip. Something deliberately laid across the road. I had no way to fix it myself. I called roadside assistance. The estimate was 2 hours, possibly more given how far out I was. I vented into the empty field, nobody for miles, so why not? Then climbed back into wait. About 30 minutes in, I caught a light in my side mirror. I figured it was a car coming up from behind, about to pass. I glanced away, waited for it to go by. It never did. When I looked up a minute later, the mirror was empty. No car. No taillights disappearing into the distance. I stepped out and looked back up the road. It was a single straight lane with nowhere to turn off. That car had simply vanished. I grabbed an energy drink, told myself I was overtired, and stepped outside to get some air. I leaned against the side of the truck facing the field, listening to nothing. Then the grass moved. Not the slow sway from the wind that had been going all night, something pushing through it. Deliberate. Close. Before I could fully process what I was hearing, a voice came from the other side of the truck. A man, standing at the rear of the trailer, asking if I was doing okay. I hadn't heard a vehicle. Hadn't seen headlights. He was just there, mid-40s, gray beard, looking exhausted in a way that didn't quite fit. Something about him immediately felt wrong. His eyes kept moving, looking at me, then at the field, back at me, like he was checking on something out there. I told him help was already on the way, and would be there any minute. A lie, but I needed him to leave. He didn't. He kept asking questions, kept lingering, kept glancing toward the grass. I made the decision to get back inside the truck. I have a concealed carry between the seats, and being inside, locked in, armed, was the only place I felt like I had any control over the situation. I started moving around the truck. He followed me, still talking, like he was trying to keep me from reaching the cab door. I got in and locked it. When I looked out the mirrors, he was gone. No footsteps receding down the road. No car. The only place he could have gone was into the field. I sat there with my hand on my firearm for the next 2 hours until roadside assistance finally showed up. I told the maintenance worker what had happened. He went quiet for a second, then told me something that made my skin crawl. A few months earlier, he'd gotten a similar call. Young man, same road, multiple tires. Blowing out at once. Took the worker about 90 minutes to get there. When he arrived, the car was on the shoulder with all 4 tires flat. The driver was gone. He searched up and down the road. Nothing. He eventually had to hand it off to local police. That case never got resolved. Whatever was happening on that road, it had happened before. Someone had been out there, in those fields, doing this more than once. I don't know what the man's intentions were that night. I don't know if he was alone. I don't know what happened to that young driver who disappeared. But I know that night could have ended very differently for me. And I think about that more than I'd like to admit. If any of these stories felt familiar, or if you've had your own experience on the road that you can't explain, drop it in the comments. Some of the most unsettling accounts come from the people who drive, while the rest of the world is asleep.